Welcome back to Veroscope, where we are continuing today with Brian Higgins, the ATF agent, who is on the witness stand. And we're going to be pressing play very shortly and continuing to watch Alan Jackson cross-examine him. And then we're going to be running through the forensic, the forensic linguistic analysis, where we'll be looking at the words which Brian Higgins used at the unconscious level, why they were chosen, and what intelligence those words reveal to us. So, without further ado, let's listen to... Oh, if you're new to the case, and it might be worth very quickly running through who the people are. This is Alan Jackson, who is cross-examining Brian Higgins today. This is what the case is all about, really. John O'Keefe. John was a Boston police officer who was found killed on the front lawn of a fellow Boston police officer called Brian Albert. So that's a lovely picture in happier times, isn't it, of Karen, who you can see there on the right-hand side, and John O'Keefe. And Karen faced 2 trials for the murder of John O'Keefe, who was her boyfriend at the time that he was found killed. And this is a character who you'll see a lot in the case, Proctor, who was the lead investigator. And this is Brian Albert, the Boston cop whose house the party was at that John O'Keefe was found killed on the front lawn. And here we have Colin Albert, whose whereabouts that evening we're trying to establish through the forensic linguistics. Okay, so without further ado now, let's go back to the trial itself and thank the trial channel for their wonderful editing and the removal of all the hanging around and waiting around and sidebar delays where we stare at fans on the ceiling. So all of that's removed for our benefit. So do go and subscribe to the trial channel if you get a chance. If you see any value from the Veroscope analysis of Brian Higgins today, please do like the video and send that signal to YouTube. That would be very much appreciated. Or subscribe for the further analysis which we'll be doing on this case and others. Okay, let's carry on with the analysis today.
Sustained as to that form, you can ask it differently.
At some point, did an officer come back to re-interview Jen McCabe?
Yes.
Jen McCabe had told you that she had information about something that Miss Reed had said, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Did she tell you that morning?
She didn't specifically tell me anything. She made a statement at the table to the group of people and she clearly seemed like she was in shock. She was upset. And she made a statement, something to the effect that Karen had opined that she had hit John.
What she actually said was, I hope I didn't hit him, correct?
Objection.
It's not what I heard. No.
That'll stand.
Who did you ever tell this to?
I've reported that.
That she said, I hit him?
Yes, I've reported it.
What you reported was...
So he was asked a very direct question. So in statement analysis, we look out for things like questioning the question to buy cognitive time, like saying, I'm sorry or pardon me, and the environment isn't noisy and you can hear perfectly well, but they're buying that few extra seconds to think about the answer. Or here we see an example of Higgins answering the question in a way which doesn't actually answer the question. Let's listen to that again.
She said, who did you ever tell this to?
I've reported that.
Who did you ever tell this to? So notice the introduction of passivity, and I've reported that as the answer. That's not who, is it? That's who did you report this to? I've reported that. Do you see the switch? And so in deception and gaslighting and lying, the switch from your question to a different answer of effectively another question, or avoiding your question entirely, is a tactic that they use. So we would now put in a flag, having noted that Higgins has used this tactic of answering the question in a way which is answering a different question. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Let's carry on.
That she said, I hit him?
Yes, I've reported it.
What you reported was she said, Karen said, I hope I didn't hit him, and you said, oh, you need to tell Canton PD that. Isn't that right?
No, I don't think that's what I said, no.
You're as sure about that as you are about that 222 call, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Mr. Higgins, what time did you leave Brian Albert's house?
It would have been, I believe, when Sergeant Lank arrived, and I think...
So here we have, it would have been, I believe, etc. Do you notice the hedging, the reduction in commitment, the qualifying? They will not commit to timelines, and they will not commit to timelines for others, and they won't commit to locations, or who has arrived first, or who left first, the order of arrival, etc. Everything is kept away from strategically by every single House defendant and House witness and House suspect. Isn't that strange that there's a consistent pattern amongst them all? A uniform pattern. Let's carry on.
Lieutenant Gallagher might have been with him.
You weren't scheduled to work that Saturday, correct?
No.
Matter of fact, you weren't on duty at all.
No, I wasn't.
But you didn't go home and get some sleep or run errands. You went directly to Canton PD from 34 Fairview yet again, didn't you?
Who could sleep after somebody just was discovered like that?
Did you go home? Or did you?
I don't believe I did, no. I believe there might have been a stop at camp.
So there we saw an example of question the question rather than answer. And sometimes they will combine this technique so we have multiple deception flags. Let's carry on.
PD before I went home.
As a matter of fact, you didn't just stop at Canton PD. You spent the entire day at Canton PD on the 29th, didn't you?
I don't know that I spent the entire day there, no.
Well, you've got a key card, right?
I do have a key card.
And that key card logs swipes.
That's correct.
So it logs where you go, access to, and access inside the
Yes.
Canton PD, correct?
Yes.
When you got to Canton PD, and you're telling this jury you don't know how long you spent there.
I don't know how long I spent there. I don't know if I left and I came back. I don't recall.
So don't forget, this is after the murder or the killing, and he's headed back to the police station. So why has he gone there? Is it to control the environment, control information flow, gather intelligence as to what's happening, who's on side, who isn't on side, who to be careful of, who do we need to swap out, who do we need to remove from the investigation, who can we put in instead? What sort of intelligence can we gather physically to plant? All sorts of things are going on. Hence, the extreme deception patterns in the linguistics undercross. Okay.
So if the records indicate that you were there from 9 a.m.-ish, after 5,
I don't know how the records would indicate that.
I'll show you in a second.
Okay.
While you were at Canton PD, did you speak again to Brian Albert?
I don't remember.
While you were at Canton PD, did you speak again to Chief Berkowitz?
Most likely.
While you were at Canton PD, did you speak with Brian Albert's brother, Kevin?
Don't forget, this is a murder trial. This is an ATF agent. And in my opinion, and in many others' opinion, he is attempting to frame Karen Reid for the murder of John O'Keefe. And his answers, his absolute reduction in commitment in virtually every single answer, the extreme hedging, removes his credibility. He is being deceptive by any measure of statement analysis and forensic linguistics. And we therefore have to ask ourselves the question, why? Why are we seeing extreme levels of deception from Higgins?
Albert.
I don't believe so.
Let's see if you recognize. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a 167-page document. Just take a glance through. Obviously, don't read the whole thing. Just glance through it and tell me if you recognize what that is.
So it says Canton Police, all events logged by day.
So don't read it out loud, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your
Just,
Honor.
do you recognize
Yes, I do.
it?
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Nope, the judge is stropping.
This appears to be a log of key swipes in and around Canton PD, correct?
Yes.
And it's in reverse chronological order, in other words.
I didn't note that, but okay.
Okay. You acknowledge that that is a record of the key swipes that everybody uses moving in and around Canton PD, going through doors, every place that needs a key swipe is logged.
I would assume that's what that is, yes.
All right. It shows that you entered Canton PD for the first time on the 29th at 1:27 a.m. Does that sound about right? When you got there, you say to move your cars.
It's possible.
All right.
It's possible.
It shows that you were granted access to floor corridor 227. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
What about floor corridor 226 on the second floor?
Second floor would make sense because I went in the building and then to the second floor.
Okay.
By the way, did Brian Albert ever mention what time the officers cleared the scene?
No.
Telling me the substance of the conversation. Did he tell you when he talked to you at 7:20 or?
Not that I recall, no.
But you remember by the time you got there, the scene had basically been cleared. There wasn't a much of emergency vehicles, crime scene tape, nothing like that.
I didn't see fire trucks. I might have saw a cruiser. I can't be sure. I don't recall.
You're not sure about that either.
Sorry, I'm
Not
not
sure about even seeing a cruiser, correct?
100%, no.
Certainly were not contacted by a law enforcement officer who took your name and ID or anything like that.
No.
Parked and walked in the house.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach one more time?
Yes.
Same thing.
So the scene is
Mr.
abandoned.
Higgins, if you will, I'm sorry, are we ready? Thank you. May I proceed?
Yes.
Mr. Higgins, if you'll look at Bates page 3015, which actually is in order, that's not reverse chronological, it's the second to the last page. Can you take a look at the 8th entry from the bottom?
I see it.
Does that indicate that this all occurred on 1/29/22? This entry at least?
Well, I mean, I only, on that 8th entry, I see that that's associated with my name. I don't know what the other ones are associated with.
Right. It would be other individuals in Canton PD. I mean, this is the entire log for 129, right?
Okay, but what all I'm saying is that just my name is next to that. I don't see any other names, so.
Right.
Okay.
So on 129, 2022, I'm just trying to orient you. At 127 and 52 seconds,
I see
access
it.
granted, Brian Higgins, rear entry to secure corridor, rear entry to secure corridor, correct?
Yes.
All right, so that appears to be what the log entry or the key swipe entry looks like when it's logged, correct?
Yes.
If you look at page 2967, I'm sorry, I said it backwards, 2976.
Okay.
Take a look at
So you said
time.
2976?
That's Bates page 2976. That's the bottom right-hand
I
page.
see it, yes.
Look at the time entry for 9:23 and 39 seconds.
923 and what?
39.
And that's on 2976?
Should be.
Okay, so there is an element of playing the fool, isn't there? And it's a very good strategy and tactic. If you ever find yourself on the witness stand for whatever reason, playing the fool to the degree where you essentially question every bit of paperwork and don't quite understand, and everything has to be sorted out. And really, it's the attorney's fault. It's not your fault, and he's the one that's disorganized. And if he's weak, the other attorney, or she's weak, you can fire some questions at him, technical questions, and that would be the strategy. So, how well does Higgins employ that type of tactic? Let's carry on. Let's see how he does.
I, give me the time again, please.
Why don't we do it this way? May I approach?
Yes.
Because you have to appear
Yeah,
cooperative.
This time's all over the place. My apologies.
That's
Okay.
fine.
All right. Thank you.
It reminds me of Columbo and the witness who has just twigged that Columbo isn't as stupid as they thought he was. But they still have to carry on pretending that they're helping Columbo solve the case which they are themselves the murderer. So they have to do this act, this pantomime of helping Columbo understand why the times are all wrong, and why, well, let's not go into Columbo case, although I would love to do an analysis of a few Columbo cases, maybe one day.
At 9:23:39, I'm sorry, if you got that in mind?
I do. I see it. It's highlighted.
At 9:23:39, that shows that you were granted access to the Sally Port to front exit, front entry to Sally Port, correct?
Yes.
There's only one Sally Port at Canton PD, correct?
Yes. And there's a door on each side of the Sally Port. Yes.
Two bay doors, right?
Two bay doors on each side.
And
Yes.
then there's a
Pass through.
personal pass-through door as well.
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want to try to speed this up just a bit because it's small print, reverse chronological order. On page 2976, there's also an entry, same page, should be right above that, 92350, showing that you were granted access from booking to Sally Port as well, correct?
Okay. 2976. And what was the time?
Page,
Yes.
it's about maybe 6 entries above, 6 entries up.
So imagine you're Higgins and you know all that you know. You know what happened at the house. You know why you've scarpered off to the police station to fix things. And now you've got to pretend to Alan Jackson that you're actually a little bit confused, but you're trying to understand all of these complex numbers and key card access to the Sally Port. And of course, in the Sally Port is the Lexus. And you're Higgins, you're seen hanging around the Lexus at the back. And then the video's mucked around with later and not given to the defense. Because what's really been going on, we think, is the tail light has been cracked that little bit more and pieces taken and then sprinkled around 34 Fairview in order to help the plant and the framing of Karen Reid. So knowing all that he knows, imagine how his mind is racing as he performs this Columbo-esque act, pretending he doesn't know. Let's carry on.
Look for time 9:23 and 50 seconds.
I see. Yes.
All right, and that shows that you were granted access to the Sally Port and then from Sally Port to booking, correct?
It says booking to Sally Port to booking.
Okay, so that's a key swipe. You either entering into the Sally Port from booking or from booking into the Sally Port.
Yes.
Could you repeat the question?
Of course, of course. May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes.
That indicate, I have no idea what the last question was. I'll see if I can make a new one up. At 9:23 and 50 seconds in the morning, you were granted access booking to Sally Port and Sally Port to booking, meaning swiped the key card in the door going from booking to Sally Port?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to belabor this because we could get bogged down into it all day long. Would you have any quarrel if those logs indicated that you were moving in and around Canton PD at 9:28, 9:53, 9:53, 9:54, 9:54, 11:40, etc.? We can look at every one of them if you want to.
Well,
That doesn't refresh your recollection.
it would not be uncommon for me to move around Canton PD at various times or dates,
Right.
middle of the night, during the day. But
So notice the technique of the gaslighter doesn't answer the question, but instead uses phrases like, well, it wouldn't be uncommon, or usually, i.e. the normal factor. So watch out for them. It's different than not answering the question entirely, but it evades the question. Does that make sense? So we put in a flag. We notice it's a similar technique.
just because I swiped in somewhere,
Oh, and bear in mind, individual flags mean nothing. Lots of people have turns of phrases. There are always flags in even the most truthful statement. So it's the clusters of flags and the superclusters that start to give us the intelligence. The statement in itself is deceptive. So don't worry about individual flags, but do note them.
and then you have a swipe at the end of the day, doesn't mean I was there the whole day. I could have left, I could have come back, and I truly don't have a recollection, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't there all day.
Fair enough. If we
Wow. I mean, it's just deception flag after deception flag. If you have seen a dozen or so Veriscope reports, and so you're by then pretty good at understanding how we mark up the documents and how we find the lies, then do consider joining the membership of Veriscope, where we'll go into a little bit more detail, and we're constructing over the course of the next year or so, each month, the type of course which the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit, for instance, use. Okay, let's carry on.
moved from 11:40 to 11:44, 11:45, 11:47, 11:51, 11:52, and then jump to 2:05, would that be an explanation where you might have gone out for lunch, 11:52?
Could have.
Okay, come back. If
Yes.
there's a 2:05 and 56 entry, then obviously you're there, right?
If the card was swiped, I was there.
I mean, you're not giving that card to anybody else.
No,
We also note the passive language. So if the card was swiped, I was there. Do you notice? Everything is qualified. Everything is hedged. Very rarely is a question answered. It's normally swapped for another. And this is the pattern of someone who is very fearful, extremely fearful of making a mistake.
No way, right? Let's just look at 2905, because I want you to be comfortable. Page 2905, and let's look at that 2:05 and 56 entry.
I'm at 2905. Where would you like me to look?
About right there. Basically middle of the page. May I approach? Yes. This might be a little easier. Highlighted for you.
I see it.
Okay. So that would indicate that you were back at Canton PD at least 2:05:56, and you were granted access Sally Port to front door, correct?
That's what it says, yes.
Okay. At 3:10 p.m., you called Brian Albert's brother, Kevin Albert, correct?
I don't know. It's possible.
Okay.
It's possible.
I mean, I don't remember every phone call I made that day.
Understood. Do you remember talking to Kevin Albert?
I don't.
So you don't remember what you discussed with him?
No.
Do you remember that it was a 12-minute phone call?
No, I don't remember having any phone call, but I'm sure it's possible that we spoke.
Do you remember Kevin Albert providing you any information about the ongoing investigation into John O'Keefe's death?
No.
Did you ask him about additional information concerning John O'Keefe's death?
No.
Were you providing details back to Brian Albert that you were receiving while at Canton PD?
Absolutely not. No.
Do you recall that 2 minutes after you cleared the call with Kevin Albert, you then called Brian Albert?
It's possible.
It's possible.
So I think the question was, do you remember? Do you remember that?
Your Honor, there was a lot of phone calls made that day. It was an upsetting day. I spoke to multiple people at multiple times. I don't have a recollection. I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's go to the analysis itself and run through so far what we have discovered. So confronted with the phone records, Higgins now has to explain how he called Brian Albert back at 2:22 a.m. if he claims he was asleep. And Higgins, I used a phrase that people commonly used as a butt dial. I think it's possible that he could have been inadvertently called back. So you can imagine the scene. There's a dead cop on the front lawn. Their phones are buzzing. That's why they had to get rid of their phones. That's why all of the house witnesses started changing the communication apps that they used to more secure environments that auto-deleted. That's why their old communication systems suddenly shut down the day after the murder, or the killing, or the accident. Whatever happened to John that night. And of course, we have the collusion between the house witnesses and suspects with this butt dial story. I mean, can you imagine them all around the kitchen table saying, how are we going to explain the fact that we've got a dead cop on the lawn and we've all been calling each other through the middle of the night? And they came up with this ridiculous butt dial impossibility. But I suppose you've got to try, haven't you? Higgins suggests that his phone accidentally called Brian Albert back. The problems. The butt dials don't wait 17 seconds because it's the chances of one butt dialing and then the other butt dialing and then the other butt dialing and then somebody else butt dialing and then they butt dial. It's just the most ridiculous, stupid story that I've ever heard. A bunch of conspiring witnesses come up with, expecting anyone to believe it. I mean, it's ridiculous. But that's what they did. And with a straight face as well, some of them. And then he had the problem explaining how did it require Face ID or a 4-digit PIN or a 6-digit PIN. And then we had that Judge Canone wouldn't allow the 22 seconds to be waited in silence, which we won't do now. But it's a long time, isn't it? But not long enough for a conversation, according to Higgins. And then we have all of these reduction in commitments and qualifiers and hedging and get out of jail free cards, don't we? We have all of the, I think it's possible, could have been, it might have been, etc. And some passive language where the phone butt dialed, not him, wasn't even his butt. I might have accidentally, I mean, this is childish. This is the sort of lying or fibbing, shall we say, that you see in children and teenagers. I might have accidentally called him, he says. More passivity, listen, look. He could have been called, making the phone or Brian Albert the actor, not himself. So we have qualifiers, we have hypothetical language, we have passive voice construction, we have third-party reference, deflected agency, and technical impossibility. Various different patterns converging at a single point is highly unusual in truthful testimony, and it strongly suggests systematic concealment. And then if we go back and look at the other Veroscope reports from the earlier parts of the testimony, where we see further patterns of deception, I think we can conclude, even at this stage, and we haven't finished the testimony, that Brian Higgins is being deceptive. The semantic fracture. Jackson says, and those phone records established that you and Brian Albert actually exchanged not one, but 2 phone calls at 2:22 a.m. And Higgins says, I have no recollection of any phone calls. So it's weak, isn't it? I have no recollection of any phone calls. He's not prepared to give a reliable denial of an innocent person. This is a get out of jail free sentence, isn't it? I don't recall robbing the bank. I have no recollection of any phone calls. Jackson says, did you call him back? Higgins says yes. So eventually, when Higgins is completely cornered and has done so much avoidance that it's now ridiculous, eventually he surrenders and concedes with the singular yes. Jackson asks, you just listened to the phone what someone was telling you? I did not have a conversation with anybody. Excuse me for the transcript error here. I'm not sure how it should be, so perhaps we'll ignore this. But Higgins says, I did not have a conversation with anybody. So let's look. I have no recollection of any phone calls, and I did not have a conversation with anybody. So we have a change in language, don't we? I did not have a conversation with anybody. So communication is definitely going on, though. So we have a sort of semantic battle and change of language. Call is a technical event. Higgins' position eventually admits that yes, when pressed by proof and records, we have the surrender. So call becomes accepted. And then the phone call, I have no recollection of any phone calls. So do you see his problem? We have eventual admittance to the but dials, but then linguistically, I have no recollection of any phone calls. And then a conversation is an exchange of information. And Higgins' position, I did not have a conversation with anybody. So by splitting these terms, Higgins creates semantic distance. Liars hate barefaced lying. They like to hide in confusion. And they like to hide where 98% is true. But with the switch of a word, they don't feel as that shame and guilt, and it's easier to say it point blank with just little tiny changes of language. And we all do it. To deal with the shame, and unless we're a psychopath, in which case they don't show this pattern, but to deal with the shame and knowing it's wrong, a little tweak of a word makes it that little bit easier, and so thus revealing its signal, its pattern. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, you're coming a long way, and you're starting to understand really how forensic linguistics and statement analysis intelligence works. Knowing what we know, we can't help but then change our language if we're being deceptive. And that's what we see, the change of language. So he can admit the calls, but he can't admit the conversation. This level of linguistic precision is highly consistent with prepared testimony. Innocent speakers don't typically create these careful distinctions. They use the words interchangeably. I have no recollection. This phrase, this clinical, hence medical sounding, it appears 3 times in this testimony. All 3 times, it's around about the 2:22 a.m. calls. If we did a graph and we looked at the sensitivity, then these 2:22 a.m. butt dials are high sensitivity in terms of the language and the number of flags that are in the marked up document for the statement analysis. So this selective use of formal distancing language is highly significant. It's his comfort phrase for this specific lie. The iPhone interrogation. Jackson now walks Higgins through exactly what it takes to make a phone call on an iPhone. You know that the iPhone does not automatically call people back, that it's not a thing, right? Higgins, with that ever so slight aggression. Yes, I think we both know that. Yeah, yes. So they're having a slight semantic battle, these two. Jackson says, in order to call somebody back, you have to go on your iPhone, open it up from a locked position, navigate to a phone application, then navigate to a contact, and then make the call, correct? You would have to, yes, replies Higgins. So then Jackson goes in for the kill. So that's 3 or 4 interactions with the phone that have to be physically undertaken just to make one call, right? Higgins then retreats because he's lost and effectively does reverse Uno and says, but I didn't make any calls. But he admits that he does with his butt. So can you see the trap that Higgins is in linguistically here? Because he's admitted he has made butt calls, but then when the butt has to enter a PIN code, go to a different app, select a user, dial, then he realizes how ridiculous it is, and so reverts back to the initial denial. And this is a game that will just go on forever with Higgins because he can't admit it, no matter how ridiculous he looks and how obvious the lie then becomes. He's stuck. Higgins is forced to acknowledge the technical impossibility of his butt dial explanation. He admits iPhones automatically don't call people back, the phone must be unlocked, and there are multiple physical interactions are required, and butts don't have fingers. The last time I looked. Then he reverts to, but I didn't make any calls. Yet the phone records show he called Brian Albert back 17 seconds after he missed the call. So he wasn't asleep, he was up waiting. Of course he was up waiting, there's been a murder. And the line stayed open for 22 seconds. Time enough for a conversation, Mr. Higgins. The objective evidence is irrefutable. His denial is meaningless against the records. In fact, his denial is more than meaningless. His denial is ridiculous, embarrassingly so for him. He is unable to explain why they're all calling each other and texting each other after the murder in the middle of the night. And the but dials just doesn't wash. So, unwilling and unable to explain. The 4-hour void. The phone calls happened at 2:20 a.m. Higgins claims the next call from Chief Berkowitz woke him up at around 6:30 a.m. And of course, the 2:27 a.m. Jennifer McCabe searches "Hoss long to die in cold," but she meant how long? So we have the missing time. What was he doing? Who else was he calling? What other phones was he using? What evidence was he planting? Where did he go? Who did he speak to? If you know, or you know parts of it, do put it in the comments. Have you noticed in the comments how the case knowledge from some of the commentators is absolutely amazing? I'm relatively new to the case, so reading some of the detailed case knowledge is fascinating for me. So we don't have the excuses for the temporal void. In truth, we will often have color, emotion, temperature, the light, the touch of the fabric. And in fabrications, it can be cold, hard-edged. It can be on and off binary. No, doesn't flow. And eventually, we get a feel for knowing all of the patterns and seeing all of the flags. We get a feel for, are they being deceptive? In truthful testimony, these temporal gaps typically include bridging language, so it's sort of softer. It's not on, off. It's less hard edges. Does that make sense? But with Higgins, the silence has hard edges, precise boundaries of on and off, but with nothing in between. There's this void. We always look for these voids. This isn't a memory gap. Remember, they know all that they know, but they cannot say. Later that morning, Higgins went to the Canton Police Department, the police station where he works as a detective, or an ATF agent rather. But it was Saturday, it was his day off. Jackson says, would you have any quarrel if those logs indicated that you were moving in and around Canton PD at these times? 9 in the morning, essentially, and 11:40. Higgins says, it would not be uncommon for me to move around Canton. Notice he didn't answer the question at various times. He won't commit to a timeline, but just because, reason why, minimization, I swiped in somewhere, vague, and then you have a swipe at the end of the day, doesn't mean I was there the whole day. So for those who have been following Veriscope, isn't this a wonderful sentence and paragraph for all of the deception pattern and accent that we recognize within it? Isn't it? I like these because they're not so obvious. And to the layman, doesn't scream deception, but to those who perhaps have seen a dozen Veriscope videos, we see it, don't we? Once you know, you know. And that's the wonderful thing in life with this skill. If you think about how many times people have deceived you in the past, understanding, even to a basic level, you don't need to join the membership of this YouTube channel and learn this skill formally. Just watching the videos alone will give you enough skill to know if someone is trying to deceive you at the most basic level. Perhaps you won't know all of the flags and all of the deception markers, but it'll be enough to connect your gut feeling, which has always been good if you listen to it, with the science, if you like, or the actual words which are triggering off your gut feeling. So do watch a dozen or so, and you'll see how much incredibly better you are at spotting deception everywhere, from the news to work to relationships, everything. I highly recommend it. If you're new to Veriscope, please do subscribe. You won't regret it, I promise. Okay. And then Higgins finally says, I don't know how the records would indicate that. Oh dear. So he can't deny. He essentially surrenders and just says, I don't know how. So we have the Canton Police Department mystery. The keycard records show that Higgins is at Canton Police Department, and he swipes in early in the morning with Sallyport access at 9:23, and then he's hanging around the police station all day doing things. With John O'Keefe dead on the front lawn. Notice that we also have another pattern. We have perfect memory where it's safe. We have this binary memory pattern that nearly all of the house suspects have. Where it's safe, incredible memory, almost perfect. And because of that, we can see where the pre-planning with other witnesses lies. But then where it's dangerous, suddenly they have amnesia. And this pattern of on-off, we call this a binary memory pattern. And the tell is the amnesia is where it's dangerous, and the perfect memory recall is where it's safe consistently. Isn't that strange? The binary memory syndrome. Higgins has perfect recall for facts that establish his presence, where he can't deny the keycard logs, but he has zero recall for the facts that would reveal his purpose or precise locations at precise times. He was there, the records prove it, but he cannot explain why he spent 7 hours at work on his day off, the day after the murder, 4 hours after phone calls with the homeowner, whose yards contained John O'Keefe's dead body. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't stand any examination. Hence the behaviour of Judge Canoni. What's missing? Throughout this entire testimony, one name is conspicuously absent: John O'Keefe. Higgins never mentions him. In fact, we notice amongst all of the house suspects in particular, John is rarely mentioned. Now, we could say that's because they're on the witness stand and the questions didn't lend itself to it. But there's a principle in statement analysis where the victim is removed psychologically from the statement by the narrator. We note it and put in a flag. Sometimes it's extreme, sometimes we just notice it once or twice. But if you go and look at the Veriscope analysis of Jennifer Soto, as an example, She very rarely mentions her own daughter. Her testimony, or police interviews rather, are extremely concerning. And we've done quite a lot of analysis on that case. So if you're new to that case, or if you want to test how far your forensic linguistic analysis skills have come since watching a few Veriscope videos, maybe on this case, and the Soto case is new to you, do have a look at a new case and see how far you've come. I think you'll be very surprised. I would bet your skill levels will shock you. So change cases if you've seen a dozen or so videos of a particular case. The significance of silence in truthful testimony from someone connected to a victim, we expect this connection. But Higgins and the other witnesses don't really show any of this. In fact, they didn't even go to his funeral, did they? They didn't even go to John O'Keefe's funeral. So we have 16 independent deception patterns which converge to form a complete picture, but this is just in this small section of the transcript which we've done. So we'll be continuing on with the cross-examination. And if you look back in the playlists, there's about 5 or 6 on Higgins already from the parts of the cross-examination before this. So if Higgins interests you as a witness, I would guess, about halfway through his testimony so far. But in just this tiny part, we've got 16 independent deception patterns from the 17-second callback window. We have an unreliable denial structure. We look for the pronoun I to be in a denial. Here we don't have it, although we have a good denial, but not a reliable denial because of the missing pronoun. We have the but dial impossibilities. We have the semantic splitting, selective formal language. We have the temporal void for 4 hours, the binary memory pattern, the coordination at Canton Police Department. We have passive voice clustering, deflection to records, pretending that he's confused, like that Columbo part. We have qualifier clustering, missing victim concern, formal distance language, technical deflection, hypothetical construction, and third-party distancing, just in this section. Bear in mind that this call from Higgins to Albert is 5 minutes before McCabe Googles Hoss Long to die in cold. What is going on in that house? Can you imagine the panic? And they're drunk, all of them, pissed out of their heads. So they're making stupid decisions like not calling an ambulance immediately. Okay, so final assessment on this small part of the transcript. Brian Higgins' testimony demonstrates systematic patterns highly consistent with deceptive concealment. And I too agree with that. I find his statement is deceptive. And we've gone through the main reasons why. His no recollection of his phone calls doesn't change the actual record. So that brings us to the end of today's Veriscope. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please do like, because that sends a strong signal. And we're running at about 10% views to likes at the moment. So if you see it's had 1,000 views and 100 likes, That's about average, 10%. So if it's a little bit below that, your like would be even more appreciated. And if it's a little bit above that, even more so, because I've yet to crack certain percentages that send those strong signals to the algorithm. Do put in the comments some of the deception markers that you found and some of the case facts, which I find absolutely fascinating. So I enjoy reading those. And I look forward to speaking with you in the next video and within the comments itself. Oh, and do subscribe if you haven't already. Check if you have. You'll be amazed. Most of you haven't. Okay, chat in the comments.